GM. Today is Moonbirds Day. We have the Silver Nests coming out today, or are they? We are going to be talking about Minecraft and other things going on in NFTs this week. Welcome, Tyler. So today we've gotten some interesting news on the Moonbird stuff. There's the oddities, obviously, yesterday that had somewhat of a I want to say bearish reveal, and then we've had a lot of news happening this week. We talked about on Monday. Are we in somewhat of a mini bull? Are we going to see? And the volume isn't necessarily too far up compared to previous weeks or anything like that, but it does seem like there's a lot more happening, like newsworthy items, just things happening in general. How's your week been so far?
It's been a mix. So yeah, there's been a decent amount of news, both good and bad, but volume has just been atrocious. And if we've been in a mini NFT bull for the last few weeks, it feels like we're in a mini bear this week. Punk's volume dried up. Apes are dropping largely due to Franklin.
Yeah.
And then now, we've been kind of waiting for this big Moonbirds event today, and now we might be waiting a little bit longer, and the market's shaky right now. And also, like, Art Blocks has cooled off, so everything's kind of cooled off. So it's been kind of a weird week.
Yeah, it has been somewhat weird. I think that, as you mentioned, like if we bring up the board here, like it's still, because this is a week that we're looking at, like it still has all the big CryptoPunk sales that happened like on Thursday and Friday of last week. But to me, like the board isn't that different than what we looked at on Monday. So it's not like there's any new projects that are popping up that are taking too much away. Nickelodeon had that drop that it got up to, I think, 0.25 at one point of the floor, and now that's back down. Still, compared to, it was $50 for an NFT, so it's still up pretty good from that. But yeah, this oddities thing, it, as you can see here, like it's back under 2 Ethereum. We've kind of talked about this the last few weeks that we thought it would be going down. What did you think on this reveal? Because I know that you got rid of them pretty early on. I was not overly surprised by how they looked, because I think there's a lot of people that this is not that far off from the style that Cryptodes are. So it wasn't that crazy to me. It's like mice are not that different. Like a lot of these are these like rodents. And I don't know. I think part of it is they're supposed to look weird. But that isn't the type of thing that really appeals to the masses. So a lot of people just got their item, saw it, they're like, this looks terrible, and dumped it. So now it's settling here around like 1.8 or so, which is, what do you say, like about 1.5 Ethereum below where it mostly was at for the past month.
Yeah.
It's gotten up. It got up to towards 4. It got down in the 2s before. But to me, I think this somewhat has to do with it. If it wasn't connected to proof, do you think it would be even lower based on the reveal? It is back under toads, which we were both kind of talking about how shouldn't toads be above these. But what's your thoughts on this oddities reveal?
Yeah, a few thoughts. For starters, this played out exactly as both you and I thought it would post-reveal. So these came out of the gate on the airdrop. They were 4 ETH. They kind of were trading in the 3.5 to 4 ETH range there for a bit. And, we started talking about it, and we're like, why is this 10K set from Grimplin going to hold a higher floor than his Genesis set in the Cryptodes? And really the only way it was going to is if the utility in Moonbird's ecosystem was going to be strong enough. And they let us know bright and early that was not going to be the case. This is a sidekick project. It was a fun project that Grimplin wanted to do, that they wanted to surprise Moonbird owners with. And that's it. It was a fun surprise. And like, this art looks like a fun, like, side project type style, right? But of course, everyone in NFTs, They don't believe what you tell them. They get their hopes up way too high, and then they're disappointed on the launch. But I don't know. I think it played out just about exactly as I expected. I mean, I didn't know what to expect art-wise necessarily, but
My issue with the art, not as much like, I think this is kind of, as I mentioned before, like I think this is part of it. Like they're called oddities for a reason. Like
mm-hmm.
I think they're expected to look a little weird. My issue with that though is like the top ends don't look that cool. Like
Yeah.
it'd be one thing if like the top ends looked cool, but the top ends arguably look worse in my opinion. I think the top sale was like 19. It was there 20.
Yeah, so there's a 21 on the board here.
Yeah. That one was that the one that was Carson's, or was his the one over to the right? So there was this discussion because someone bought the oddity that was connected to Carson's, the now infamous auction that he had,
Mm-hmm.
and it came out to be rare because this is another thing we could talk about, which if you had rares, you seemed to get a rare oddity that had the matching number. So someone went and bought it for 10 Ethereum the other day, and now it comes out and they got a super rare. It was one of these 6 of the demon bread or something like that, dark bread. And as you can see, like turned out to be a worthy gamble of betting the 10 ETH on it. But yeah, I mean, like I don't think these look all that cool. Like the one of one toads, those
cool.
have some really cool ones. They have some animated ones. Like if these that second one there, like you can't even tell what's going on in it. I think the red and black ones are kind of neat, but I don't know. That has always been something for me. Like it is the top end desirable. I think that's a big key into some of these surf collections. But with 10,000 of them, like there's not crazy differences that just stand out that you want. I think one thing Moonbirds, their own collection, does well is they have like the link ones. They have specific traits that now have like subcultures to them. Here, like it's a lot harder to do that with. So what's your thoughts on this? Like the rarities were tied into the original IDs.
So I was fine with the rarities tied to the traits. I guess it was real quick on the high end. I mean, these are rough, and you nailed it. Like the Cryptodes high end, the one-on-ones, they look great, right? Like those feel like Grimplin one-of-ones. And even though Kevin Rose said that everyone who owns an oddity has a Grimplin one-of-one, like okay, but do you want it? And I mean, these are just bad. And honestly, like, all of these top row buys, I mean, I think these people just kind of threw their money away, to be honest, unless there's some big X factor surprises coming down the road. And we'll get there. I want to talk about a few potential theories. But on the traits, I don't know. I was okay with it. Moonbird specifically is a project where they came out of the gate saying they're going to reward trait-based features. Like birds with certain traits are going to get certain rewards. And here we have the first airdrop, and that was the case. Again, like you shouldn't be surprised. That was part a foundational kind of premise of this project. Now, should every drop have the trait-based, rarities and whatnot? Probably not, because that's going to remove a little bit of the fun. And I definitely understand the flip side case. Like if I've got a floor Moonbird, why would I ever hold an airdrop? Because I already know that I've got no shot at a rare. Which I always get a little frustrated when people are complaining about the free money that they got airdrop to them in the first place, just because they don't have a shot at more money. But I thought it was fine, but it's probably one that they're not going to do again just because of the pushback that they got.
Yeah, and I think in a perfect world, the way that you can sort of get around that is maybe you are a little more open, but it's a % chance. So if you had a gold in your previous, you are 20% more likely than someone with a floor to get a gold. Like maybe it's tiered that way where you have like a rarity score, and that's like a percentage chance of getting the higher end stuff. And then, there's still the lottery system to it, but you can have that up front that, if it's tied to it. But then I don't know how, like, legally, if that gets into some of the
It gets
security stuff.
messy.
So
Yeah.
it does get sloppy. I think in reality, maybe that's like an unwritten rule. Like they could code that in. Maybe someone finds it in the code or something, and you don't announce it. But in my opinion, I do think that would give some reason to hold the rares of the original collection too, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just floors, because
I mean,
you're more likely. And what if the one of one here was really cool?
exactly. And I think we're already seeing that in a lot of the like other PFP markets, right? Where especially for utility-driven projects, there's not enough reason to hold the top end. So, I mean, Bored Apes, great example. Yes, they had a couple recent big gold ape sales, but that top tier isn't trading at really that high of a premium multiple compared to the floor, at least compared to CryptoPunks. So, I mean, this is a way to reward those top end Moonbird holders. So, to that degree, I think it makes sense. But what's interesting to me, what I want to talk about a little bit, is this tweet from Kevin Rose yesterday. I love art that's polarizing. Let me get to load for a sec. My hope with Oddities as a collection going forward is that it continues to stay odd, not for everyone, always paired with a stellar, respected artist like Grimplin.
Yeah.
So this one threw me off a little bit. And we were chatting.
Yeah, I gave you my take on this, right?
Yeah, so are they opening the door for maybe like a rotating, artist? Like, are Oddities going to change? Like, what's going to happen?
I think someone found that the metadata is something in the contract. The metadata is changeable. So the working theory right now that I have is every couple months maybe your image changes and it becomes something from a different artist. Like we know Tyler Hobbs has been doing stuff with Kevin Rose, obviously with the Grails collection. There's a lot of big name artists that are already connected to the proof ecosystem. So, maybe that's where they go down this path. They've also talked about in the past not wanting to oversupply. So I don't really think it's going to be okay, here's more oddities for you, because then it just becomes oversupply and why is one better than the other, that sort of thing. So that's sort of my take. I think they're this metadata, like, oh, you have the Gremlin for X amount of days, but in that sense, like the rarity lotto, you just paid that. This is the other issue. You just paid 21 ETH for something. How do you know it'll be worth 21 ETH in the next version of this? So it might be that. It might be what some collections are doing these days, where you get an additional NFT that is tied to your others.
Yeah.
Yeah, where like you could change the image between the two. That could be something, which I'm guessing a lot of people would, based on the feedback yesterday, I'm guessing like a lot of people would switch off of the Kremlin one. But yeah, what do you think about that? Where maybe it's like, oh, if you sell one, they both go with it. Because that's been a thing that we saw with like Space Doodles. Cryptoon Goons have done that. Smiles have done that. There's been some other projects that are doing that.
I think it's more likely you would get like a second image tied to your NFT,
but not
versus
as
like
a separate.
Replacing it.
Yeah,
right. Like kind of like what the Doodle spaceship is, where it's not dilutive, but it's like a new
right. Like
way
it would be connected
to share. Which is interesting. I think a lot of people would be open to. And then we also, so Grimplin was in Discord, some Discord, saying just wait till you see the attitudes change. So I wonder if that's part of it or if that's something different.
That's
so
one
like
of the traits.
They had this trait attitude. Something we're saying is like the different hand motions that they're doing. I mean, that would be kind of a lame thing to change if that's all that they're changing. So I don't know. But, if your theory is right, and we've got a series of rotating top end NFT artists, are these too cheap?
Are these cheap? Yeah, I think so. I haven't pulled the trigger yet on them because I wanted to see what the Silver Nest brings before. And I think there's enough people that probably don't follow it closely enough, or are like bots and people that were just flipping these that are still going to dump it anyway. But to me, my thought was this is something that has upside based on other stuff they've said versus even the toads. Like the toads is just vibe. Like what are they going to do that's going to move the toads market? I
Right.
think there's a lot of things that can be said here that can move this market. So I do think they have more upside than other random collections that are in this price range. But to me, I feel like with that feedback too, they're going to be a little more, I don't know, like they have some pressure on them, I guess. That if they had something in mind, it's more reason to go do that now versus these just being a vibe project. So I don't think we're done with oddities as far as
Yeah.
just like information goes. So that part of it has upside to me. Is 1.8 still too high? Maybe like 1.5 is a better entry point that I could get to. I think lowest I saw yesterday was in like 1.6 or so. Did it get below 1.5?
I never saw it get lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think the most likely scenario is probably a slow, steady drop, unless there's some kind of big announcement about these soon. And you brought up a good point. People might be waiting to make any kind of buys or moves until we learn about Silver Nest.
Yeah.
Because if there's now a new collection coming out, like Ravens, then like no one's going to put ETH towards oddities. If Ravens are coming out next week
Right.
or
So there's that
tomorrow.
downside still.
So I think that's going to keep some people on the sidelines. But I agree. There might be some potential upside. These things have the beans level around like 1 ETH. I think they'll start to get really interesting down there. But still a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, and then I don't know if we don't have to get too deep into it. Like I assume on Monday we'll have more information on this, but I guess quickly you could say, what do you think is going to come out of Silver Nest? Do you have any takes on that? Because are all of yours this? They all released at the same day or at the same time?
So I was pretty much I wasn't on the gun, but I was within the first few hours of nesting. So I'm gonna have my Silver Nest for all 5 in 2 hours.
Because I think it's in like
45 minutes
25,
for the first.
30. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
The
it's
first
really
ones
coming
are
here.
soon.
I'm pretty shocked we don't know what's going to happen in 45 minutes. So like now I'm starting to think that nothing's going to happen.
Got pushed back. Well, I think they were planning on starting to announce it. I don't know if that Spaces is happening right now or not. I know they had to move it because Justin had flight issues, which I know from when I traveled to New York that every flight is having issues right now. So I'm not overly surprised. But you've known for 2 months that this is the date. Like, where are you traveling? Unless his travel is like clearly something to do with the Silver Nest, and but I don't necessarily think that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we get any more information regarding it.
I'm now thinking Ravens is in play. We were talking about
oddities.
Is it too tight with oddities? But I feel like oddities have run their course, right? Like I haven't seen hourly volume on those. I guess we can just check it right now. But I had to imagine like that buy action has already slowed quite a
bit. Look at that chart.
Decent. So still 10 sales an hour. Yeah, I mean that's 4 sales last hour, 5 sales. Yeah, it's 5 to 10 sales an hour. It's still a decent amount, but I feel like the market's already over these. So I think if they dropped a new one, people would gun for it. Like if they drop Ravens and they announce it like this is Moonbirds companion set. I don't know that it runs to 10 ETH right away, but I mean it's got to run higher than Oddities was, right? So I think 5 to 6 is probably in play for a true Moonbird companion. And that's part of that's because like the Moonbirds force dropped to 20 with some people panicking today with the spaces getting pushed. And not liking the oddities. But if Moonbirds are up at 30, certainly the Ravens will have a shot at the 5 to 6 range. So if they drop that, the whole market could explode a little bit this weekend.
And I wonder how they're going to do it, because the oddities were just, if you were nested, you didn't have to have bronze. So I think, and something we've talked about before, maybe this is a way that you can get people to go towards the silver nest. Like if you say you can't get a raven until you are silver nested, that is a way that we've never really seen one of these airdrops work,
Right.
as like an overtime. So like that could be a cool way of doing it. That's how I've generally thought it was going to happen. I just thought with oddities they wouldn't do it. The fact that they're doing it at the same time made me think they weren't going to do it that way. So that would be interesting. So obviously we'll have more on Monday,
Hopefully.
and hopefully we'll be able to get some good stuff. So we spent a decent amount of time on Moonbirds. Let's get a little into some of the other big stories, this Minecraft thing. So yesterday, Minecraft basically came out and said they are not going to allow NFTs on their platform. One thing that we've known, and there's been a big push for a lot of these metaverse games, is the ability to use Minecraft. NFT Worlds, basically, that was their whole thing. And a lot of projects started building on it. And there are plenty of these games and metaverse events that have happened already in the Minecraft world. So now, I guess the way I would ask this to you is, how big of a deal is this for the overall gaming NFT markets, not just Minecraft itself?
It's interesting. I have to say that it's probably, I think it's a net positive, but it's going to lead to a new Web3 native player who's probably going to end up being the winner in NFT gaming space. Versus if you asked us 3 months ago, at least for me, like I thought it was the big studios are eventually going to come over and they're going to dominate, and then all these little projects running around with their pixelated games are going to get smashed and out the door. Well, now this is a big domino to fall here with Minecraft and Microsoft. Like they're not interested. So it opens the door for the products who have already started and are fairly far along, like Treeverse, right? Like other side, of course. If one of these Web3 teams is able to really pull off a great game and can turn into more of like a studio and start pumping these out, they're going to have a real advantage.
Yeah, I think today, Epic Games basically came out today. It was like, oh, we're not banning NFTs, at least not yet. That is how I would word that. They've gone back and forth, Epic Games, I feel like. But, I mean, a good point with that is, why wouldn't they want to be in good graces in that? Because then you could create your own NFT in your own NFT marketplace, because you already have a marketplace, something like Epic Games. Obviously, Minecraft is somewhat different, but this was one of the ways you could get mass appeal, because Minecraft is such a big game and it already has a bunch of ads, and there's a lot of tech involved with it, and people are already using it. So I think it took a hit, but someone like NFT Worlds came out yesterday and was like, we're not going anywhere. Like, this is just like a bump in the road. We have to now pivot to something else, which might take longer to build out their long-term plans and their long-term goals. But I'd like to think this was a possibility that they were planning for or had thought about during this whole time. You can't just expect a third party to go along for the ride the whole way, right? So I'd like to think that. It's hard to say with a lot of these other projects that are out there that they would think that way. But how do you think they could still be able to fare well potentially if they go and do this on their own? Because the price did bounce. It got down to around 0.8 and it went back over 1. So like the price did bounce a little bit after they made a couple announcements about it. Do you think NFT World is dead?
So I'll start with the caveat that I'm not really, I don't focus it in the gaming space that much. I wasn't really close to NFT Worlds. I never really followed this project that closely other than loose price action following. But I don't know. I'm pretty bearish on a team that makes the foundational decision to build on this tech that they can't control and can get pulled out from under them at any given time. And, you know, I've seen some conspiracy theories that the founders kind of knew this was going to happen all along, and they've essentially framed this as a slow rock. Now, I'm not calling that out, but I mean, you have to at least ask that question, because like, how could you not know like this was a big potential outcome for this project, and then what happens now? I mean, are you starting all over? What happens with all the money that you already spent? Like, it's been at a minimum a terrible use of funds spent so far, right? So I don't know. I'm out on this one. I would not be putting in any additional capital into this project. Let's look for some other games to bet on.
Yeah, and I think that it potentially, I was expecting a short-term move to some of the other platforms. Like, I was surprised World Wide Web didn't benefit from this more. But yeah, it makes me somewhat bearish on these projects that are doing it on their own at the same time. I don't know. It's a little weird. It's almost like if people have NFT Worlds as like a bad taste in their mouth, are they going to try a different one that isn't backed by someone like Sandbox? Yeah, Gravity's talking about Ether Jump. We've discussed that a little bit. Problem with that is like they're new. Like, are new ones going to be able to win? I think the projects that it was bullish on for me is Treeverse and the World Wide Web, because people are already using World Wide Web. And then Treeverse has always kind of been like, we're not using others, and assume they've been building their whole universe out, and there's been a lot of the game information that they've been putting out for the past, almost a year at this point. So this one's kind of just always been there.
Yeah.
I like the style of it for a game. I think they're working on making it an app as well, which is a huge benefit. You almost have to be in the mobile in order to survive in games these days. But then the other one is the BYO verse. That I think they probably benefit from this as well, because the other thing with NFT Worlds is they're like, oh, they're connected with Minecraft. That has a lot of backing and confidence for someone that wants to do it. Oh, Minecraft already exists as a working game, so that's sort of my thing. But yeah, I think that was pretty much the big story of the week, at least so far. Like, when it came out yesterday, it was pretty unexpected the way things have been trending. The other thing Dickens is saying is ETH is back to 1,600. So I think that's been partially a big part of what's going on in the NFT markets.
Wow.
I think people are just becoming a little happier with coins right now. And so, it's like, go ahead.
What a crazy week for Ethereum. I mean, we haven't seen numbers like this, 43% in the last 7 days. And I mean, and it is absolutely having its impact on the NFT market right now.
Doesn't 1,500 just feel way, like, not, I don't want to say way nicer, but like 1,000 feels like, ugh. But like 1,500 feels like, okay, people are like believing it again. It doesn't have to be like 3,000 again, but
1,500 feels like 4,500 used to feel last summer.
It's kind of crazy, but true.
I was euphoric when it hit, and like a big psychological barrier, a lot for the technical analysis traders out there, was the 1,300 threshold, and would ETH be able to get past that? And then it did here, and then it's been just kind of clear skies. And now people are kind of the TA people, at least, and of course, no one has any clue what's going to happen.
Oh no, the TA people are the best. I love the lines on charts.
We're talking. They're raising their targets. The kind of clear sky. Previously, it was clear sky 1,700 to 1,800. I think now they're talking about maybe 2,000. And there's been positive news with the merge. The merge is just around the corner. I think there's a test happening next week. That's going to be a big milestone. So people are getting excited about ETH again. And I think some people who bought NFTs when ETH was 1,000 are probably starting to take some profits. And it's kind of hard to blame them. There's just not a ton of liquidity in the market right now. There's not a whole lot of people really trading a lot of these projects on a daily basis. We see the volumes, putting punks aside, it's pretty dry out there. But I think a part of it too is the volatility. We moved up 43% in a week. Of course, there's going to be a portion of traders who just want to take those gains. But if we can stabilize 1,500, 2,000 range, our NFT portfolios all just went up by 50%. If they've held their floor, and then the wealth effect takes over, people are more likely to buy more. So I don't know. It's a good sign for mid-July. I'm always happy when it goes up.
Yeah, it's been a good week in that regards. I feel like people are just have a little better spirits as well. And the whole I wish I bought more at 1,000 or 800, and it's like, well, just the mental of buying 1,000 when it's sitting there for weeks. It's a little harder. But now people are a little more comfortable. Okay, now it's been at 1,500 for a few days. They're like more confident to buy. It's just the mental game with all this is always so interesting to me. But yeah, and then another one from this week is Nickelodeon. This was Tuesday, I think, and it was $50 each for 2 NFTs. I haven't been following it all that much because I failed on my purchase, and it wasn't even like there's none left. It just failed, and then I went back in and it was gone by then. So I just haven't really been watching it the same. But it was pretty bullish. One thing that's kind of weird with this is it's like split. So some of the NFTs are on Ethereum, some of them are on Polygon, which has made the trading a little interesting. And I think that's why it somewhat pumped on the ETH side, because people looked at it as, oh, look, this is only a sub 5K supply collection. But in reality, it was, I think it's closer to 15.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I think that's what brought it back down, is when people realized that. Nickelodeon, I think, appeals to a lot of people, and most of the studies we've seen, like 25 to 34 or 26 to 34 is the range that most people trading NFTs are in. And that puts you somewhat towards the end of when Nickelodeon was popular. The like 30 to 34 range, probably more so than like the 26. But I think that somewhat appealed to people. The traits are kind of, whatever. It's nothing like crazy art wise. Like, it is basically what the cartoons looked like. Some of the one-of-one sales were decent in the original auction. What are the highest sales from this one? Because I know in the auction there was like 8.
Oh my goodness!
Is it 8?
Yeah, so these are all 10? The auctions. So the highest 8.69.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see like of the more.
And that one was resold. So that Helga one, the second largest, was the original sale.
Okay.
And then I think originally that top one was 10, and they brought it down. It's funny that those are all listed at 1,000. I wonder if all of the ones that are 1,000 are probably the same wallet, if I were to guess.
Probably.
So might be someone trying to buy it up as a whale. But yeah, I think this is an interesting one to follow. Human's asking if this is a buy. I'm not sure, because I haven't been following it enough to know what the plans of the project is. I know they've talked about doing additional series. So like other famous Nickelodeon shows will have collections. I'm not sure if it's going to be all from this, but tell me about the Recur Pass, because I believe you said that you had gotten into them. What's going on with the Recur Pass? Because if you had one, you were able to mint on the allow lists of these, and that brought up the floor of these to now they're sitting at 0.15 ETH.
Yeah, so I have to admit, I totally just missed this Nickelodeon drop. I've got 5 Recur passes. I've had them since they came out. I was busy on Tuesday. It was my son's birthday, so I was, playing with him. I also didn't think this had that much upside.
Mm-hmm.
They're selling them for $50 a pack. I'm like, maybe I could sell this for $100 a pack, but
100 or two, yeah.
Was floored when I woke up Wednesday morning, and they were going for 600 a pack for a cool 12x. So first, these were all sold in the Recur marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
The website was nickelodeon.xyz. And then, you saw the weird mechanics with how it got split across ETH and Polygon. And I also don't know exactly what happened there. There are more than 489 Recur passes. This must just be the people who've withdrawn them to ETH. So I always say, check the prices on the Recur marketplace. But the people who are bullish on Recur and who bought in, part of that reason was because they have the Nickelodeon IP.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just the first release. Yeah. So I don't know if the Rugrats and Hey Arnold set is going to be, the best Nickelodeon NFTs of all time. But if you think more are coming, 0.15 is still a pretty low entry. You'll have the potential to make that back, maybe in the next sale,
Mm-hmm.
if it's something good. Yeah. Or maybe this was a kind of a flash in the pan type thing. But I'd say I'd probably lean more towards the pass than the first set of Rugrats NFTs.
Yeah, and there's so much you can do with this, and I kind of go back to thinking about Top Shot. That's a good point though, where it's like, yeah, there's going to be more of these. So when I get the OG is actually the pass in a sense. The pass allowed you to get allow lists, right? And so
right, you still have to pay.
In this case, that didn't matter. But because of the success of this first drop, I think it's more likely that getting a allow list spot will matter.
Yeah.
So that's the other bull case on buying one of these passes. And then, I mean, there's so much you can do. There's so many different shows they had. I think of with like Top Shot, where you could have some of these NFTs where, I don't know, something like Are You Afraid of the Dark or all that. You could have clips from specific shows, and there's a lot you can do with it that might end up being cooler and better than what this Rugrats and Hey Arnold drop was. I think there's probably people out there that would say Hey Arnold and Rugrats are the most known and ones that will resonate the most with people of the cartoons. But yeah, I think there's stuff they could do with like an Are You Afraid of the Dark drop that around like Halloween or something that I bet would get a lot of people.
Or Snick packs. You remember Snick? Were you
Were
you in that time frame? So those could really go off. I know that was huge.
Yeah.
For my generation. I'm showing my age a little bit. So yeah, I like
Saturday
the upside.
night.
Everyone loves Saturday night. So
yeah. And I think that's sort of the cool part with this. I'd say the bear case is they're not as like, it wasn't as easy to get through all this stuff as some others, and onboarding new people. Mm-hmm. That's one of the biggest bull cases with something like Top Shot, is the ease of getting someone on and buying one was pretty simple. But for this, like the fact that some of these are on Ethereum, some of these are on the Polygon network, and it's split up, and what's this Recur thing? I have to go to a new marketplace. I think at least for this first drop, it was confusing for people. So they might have to do something differently with future ones in order to do that. But I think you're starting to talk me into this Recur pass, because I know you had mentioned, I had these Recur passes and didn't get
they're down. So they ran to 0.2 when the Nickelodeon stuff was smashing. So it does look like they're back down a bit. So
because I went to buy when the allow list opened up, and they were around $200. And I was like, then I'm actually buying this NFT for $250. But I think it'll depend on what future drops are, but you'd probably be able to get $200 worth back. But now, 0.15 with $1,500 Ethereum, it's a little more expensive these days. So that's from the Nickelodeon. That was probably the biggest drop of the week as far as like how successful it did in known name. There have been some others that have just gone up higher. That like the Nina one is way up, but that one came out last week. But I want to talk about the Meme Land potatoes because this one they have these potatoes minting and they've been killing it. It was free to claim if you were on this allow list, and floor has basically been 0.6 for most of the day, which is crazy. Like people are really frothy for meme land with 9gag. So why do you think that is? Do you have a good sense of this project?
So I only know Meme Land because enough people have told me about it, and I need to follow it. So
Yeah.
I'm not deep in the ecosystem, but 440,000 followers on Twitter.
It's been that like
rabid
S tier when people are saying upcoming drops.
Yeah, so clearly everyone is all over this. And I mean, this free mint came out of the gate at 1. It dropped to like 0.5, 0.6, then it's kind of been hovering there, bounced back to 0.7 at one point. I don't know the details on the reveal. I think that's definitely going to matter with, how long this pump window may last. But I think this is just, one of their first products, and it's their next drop, which is supposed to be the big one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is an indicator of the demand for that next product is definitely bullish for Meme Land and for people trying to get on that whitelist. But yeah, I mean, the volume, we showed the LT board. I've been looking at the daily updates. One day this week, no one got over 700 ETH traded. I think Oddities had a decent day yesterday, but I mean, these things did over 2,000 ETH in just a few hours. So clearly the demand is there for these potatoes.
And I think part of that is kind of what you said on people are excited for the next collection. I think people are assuming, and I don't know if this has been announced or not, but assuming that if you hold one of these, you can get into the next drop. I think that's part of the reason why this has a higher floor. I haven't seen if that's been confirmed. I don't know if you know or not. But I think that's part of the reason that it's like baked into this current price. And there's going to be a rare lotto in here, which keeps up the price in general on these types of things. It's funny because a lot of projects these days, if you don't reveal right away, it just dies. But I think on these hyped ones, keeping people hyped up by not revealing has been more successful.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely different strategies for different tiers of projects. And like these free mints, this low cap stuff just doesn't have the attention span in this market to be able to pull that off. But a brand this big, they do. I wouldn't mind seeing, a couple of days of pre-reveal action on this one, maybe let the hype build. You definitely don't want to do it. Like we kind of want to let the dust settle on whatever Moonbirds is going to do. Right. So
that's got to be announcing pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have I'm out of my link, but we have to be in the final few minutes. Of the Silver Nest. So this is going to be a big one. We had another drop today. Izakai Meta that was fairly hyped, but it kind of fell flat, at least the last I checked. Have they made any more progress? Oh, so it is. It's above the private list mint, but below public, right?
At it was 0.15 for private.
So it's another anime product. This one might struggle a little bit to mint out here. This kind of shows how hard it is in this market for anything that's not a free mint. We talked about Ether Jumps earlier in the show. That was a 0.05 mint. I didn't think it was going to mint out last night. They had kind of a slow, casual allow list grind, and with 60% of supply out, the floor was below mint, which is kind of like the death, potential death sentence for these sets. But it was able to mint out. Now it has some success. So maybe a little early to write off Izakai Meta. But I don't know. They're going to do something to grab the market's attention here.
Yeah. The thing with Isekai, is that how you say it? Not sure.
I have no idea.
Is they are partnered with a pretty big animation studio that's done a couple different projects and shows that have decent like anime following. So I think that was the original sort of like here's the thesis on why this project could do well, but I don't think enough people that are in NFTs have probably heard that from that side. So that's the thing. Like some of these like people in NFTs know of 9gag, which is part of the meme land, because a lot of people at NFTs are trolls and have come from troll culture. And 9gag is also that was it started by Kevin Rose, or he just was a big early investor in them. I know that 9gag is one that was connected to him as well. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like they have a massive following, and they have Memeland right there in their profile. They're pushing it as well. It's kind of like a I don't know, like a chive kind of following. Um, so we'll see, but I do know that Memeland has been one that once that comes out, like people have been waiting on. This is like the one that if there is one of these new projects that will come out the gun and with a couple ETH floor, even if it's a bigger supply, like this seems to be the leader in that. So we'll see, but that's likely going to be on a future show. Let's talk about this artifact one that about an hour or so. They are going to be doing their Air hoodie drop with crypto kicks. And what do you think about this drop? So it's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern, and that is going to be 8,888 supply. If you are CloneX or the crypto kicks holder, you're eligible to buy at 0.2 Ethereum. What's your thought on this one? Because I think we're both thinking it could be a gas war because of how many people are eligible to buy. Mostly is what about 3x how many there are for supply. So, what's your thoughts here on this artifact hoodie drop?
I like it. You know, they've kept the supply and the price a bit mysterious, and I understand that. You know, kind of debating, you know, the value of this first gen AR hoodie. I like the value at 8888 supply, a lot more than 40,000 supply, which, you know, they certainly could have done to make sure everyone gets one. And, you know, there's going to be pushback, right? Because there's going to inevitably be holders who don't get any. But I like the upside on this. I was always really bullish on this one. I'm just bullish in general on Nike digital wearables and all this first generation stuff. Love the kicks. This AR hoodie I think is awesome. You know, it's going to be one of the first examples of augmented reality in clothing and couture. So I think it definitely has some real legs on it. I think it's going to be a guess war. They say they don't want a gas war, but there's just no way around it. So if you want one of these, you're going to have to go for it on the gun. I see He-Man's got a comment. Airdrop to the Clone X holders would have been better for Clone X holders, certainly. And I definitely get that case. But I mean, Clone X holders have been rewarded quite a bit, right? So they were given the digital studios. I'm blanking on the names of those. They were given Monolith, which the kicks have now come out of Monolith as a free airdrop. So, I mean, at some point you have to kind of expand and give other owners shots at these. So I think we're going to continue to see crypto kick owners get rewarded in opportunities like this. But go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, I was going to say that for crypto kicks holders, like they haven't really gotten anything yet in this case. So I like that they're including them. They're like, oh, you have you're already interested in the wearables. So here's another one. And them announcing this late added some more gamification to Monolith, because in order to get you, if you already had a Monolith, you could say open it in order to get on this list, but them adding the clinics too made it not as necessary to do it. So they're still gamifying Monolith, the OG one. There's how many of these left unopened?
There's
7K.
still 7,500. So there's only, so that
That's a
makes the
lot more than I
eligible
expected.
pool. There's only 32,000 eligible for today's drop then. So
32
there's 20,000
total.
Clone X, 12,500 crypto kicks roughly.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's this many models, and I think the Artifact team is going to want more people to reveal. Like they don't want 2/3 or 1/3 of the supply to sit unrevealed, ongoing. I don't think so. I won't be surprised if they continue to have incentives for people to open the Monolith, because Monolith 2 is coming up later this summer, probably in like the next 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess 4 to 6 weeks. So, yeah, this is a big drop. I think we're definitely going to see some secondary action, because such a limited group of people has access to this, and I think it will be coveted. So definitely one to watch.
Yeah, and I have a little breaking news to announce that Kevin Rose tweeted and said, I can confirm Justin has landed, going live in 20 minutes. So that'll be at 5:30 Eastern time.
Wow.
So that's likely going to be it. So yeah, I think, well, we're definitely going to want to get off before that so people can go over and listen to them.
Yes.
But I do think that it'll be interesting to see what happens in their conversation, because I think that's around the time that those first birds are going to be released into the Silver Nest. So,
let's see. I might be able to pull it back up. Yeah, let's.
Oh, if people are buying off of that? Oh, or just the timing?
Yeah, I just want to see the timing real quick. Oh, it's 11 minutes past. So yeah, a few of these folks should have the Silver Nest already.
Okay, so they did right at 5.
It looks like I'm 30.
So it just shows, but maybe the reward isn't announced yet, kind of thing. Because can you click into that top one to see them in the nest? Oh, so there it is. Nest. Shows as silver.
Yeah,
that's funny. Oddities spawned. I wonder if mine will show as Oddities spawned, since I personally didn't spawn it. I like that you're clicking this one, and the first one to become silver is one of my Lincoln brothers.
Top hat, right?
So we got the top hat. Maybe they're going to reward the top hats for once.
So,
it's funny. But yeah, I guess. What else did you want to talk about today at Art Blocks? They have
just a couple things. Yeah, there's an Art Blocks project tomorrow, Metro Pixelland. Yes, for anyone who's followed this week, it's been rough. Things are minting out a little bit too high and then falling on secondary. I think both Mondays and Wednesdays drops are now trading about 50% of what they minted out at. So the correct play, even if you're interested, has been to sit it out and wait. So I expect Metro Pixelland to go near the bottom tomorrow with 2 poor trading results in a row. I think there's going to be less flipper interest. It's a higher supply, 450 count. The other side of that is I think people – it appeals maybe more to a mainstream audience, so people might like it more. But I just say, just be careful with these. They're definitely not slam dunk, surefire 3Xs like they were a few weeks ago. And then we heard Curated's coming next Wednesday, so that will be a real test for this current Art Blocks market.
That'll be exciting. I think that as you mentioned, like people aren't as amped for this as maybe they were earlier in the week. So we'll see. I think the curated will bring people out. I don't think we're necessarily out of the curated being good part of the cycle, if you want to word it that way. So that will be the interesting one to watch. And then, is there anything you have your eyes on for the weekend outside of whatever happens with Moonbirds?
Potatoes reveal, and then this Mystics NFT.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this one.
We talked about it on Monday. It's got the low price point. There's really not a whole lot else on my radar for this weekend. It's a Genesis project, one of three. If you go over to their website, you can kind of see their plans in their magic map. The art, it's a little similar to Invisible Friends for me. It's animated. I never really like going after projects whose art seems like derivative, even if it's not like an obvious derivative. So that maybe has it against it, but the price is going to be low. And yeah, it's a Genesis ahead of Web3 Skate Crew and Arcade. So I think there'll be some attention on this one. Definitely worth paying attention to.
Yeah. Cool. So I think this is one that I'm going to definitely pay attention to. Obviously, like for me, a lot of stuff that's going to happen depends on Moonbirds and what's going on there. But yeah, I think the Mystics one seems cool. Potatoes have grown on me through the day. Like just thinking it through with Meme Land, it's pretty bullish on that, and the idea that maybe this is a way of getting on a future list for the Meme Land drop, which is going to have tons of froth around it, apparently. So it might have to be a timing thing for Meme Land when they actually decide to do their full drop, but. Hopefully they weren't planning on doing a metaverse built on Minecraft either, because that's not going to work out for you anymore either. But cool. And then yeah, we'll be back here on Monday to go over what's coming on the next week, as this was a big week, I think, and with Ethereum trending up as well. It's something that I think people are just in better spirits, better moods right now for stuff like this, they're just waiting for good projects to come out instead of these like free mints, poorly drawn art. No roadmap it was too meta for a bit, where it's like, oh, we're literally not gonna do anything, but here's a mint and it's gonna be dead in a week. So hopefully we're moving on from that into maybe some better projects. So thanks for stopping by if you guys came out here today, and we'll see you on Monday.